My name is Sheila Karuna. Welcome to New Light Streaming Love and Sassy Seer Sheila. Today is Monday, May the 26th, 2025. And this is from AstroButterfly.com. Saturn in Aries 2025 to 2028, how it will influence you. Now, I knew the minute that I saw this that I had to record it, so I'm reading it for myself and for you all for the first time. On May 25th, 2025, Saturn enters Aries, initiating a brand new 29-year chapter, a cycle that will set the tone for how we build a future from the ground up. On September 1st, 2025, Saturn will dip back into Pisces for a final visit to re-enter Aries in February 2026, just before the much anticipated Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th, 2026. Saturn will stay in Aries until April 13th, 2028. So this is something that I learned in astrology in regards to the Saturn return, right? Because everybody has a Saturn return, and it actually lasts for all, depending on where your Saturn is in your natal chart, for almost 2 full years, sometimes 2.5 years, and it has to do with how long it takes Saturn to go back and forth, right? And now that's what I've taught myself. It may be incorrect. So there's that. With Saturn's ingress into the first sign of the zodiac, a long, long story is coming to an end. A new one is ready to begin. Saturn is the planet of adulthood, also the planet of karma, a word for the understanding that in the adult world, actions have consequences. Hopefully, everybody's been taught that as they're growing up. Sometimes that's not the case, but, one could hope. In the past 29-year Saturn cycle, we've been dealing with an inherited system of expectations, how we're supposed to live, succeed, and behave. This is a time to start again from a clean slate without the entanglements of outdated roles and borrowed expectations. Wow, I read that as drop all my programming and conditioning and all the expectations that might be tied to those. We are now invited to leave the past behind and construct a life that is a reflection of what's meaningful to us now. I love that. This is a unique threshold moment. We are moving from Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, a water sign, to 0 degrees Aries, the first sign, a fire sign that initiates the wheel. With Saturn's departure from Pisces and its ingress into Aries and into a brand new cycle, something major is being birthed. And everybody can feel how the energy is shifting. Today is the 26th, and this was happening on the 25th. And I actually, and I've noticed that other people were feeling this even a day or two earlier, right? In fact, many of the words we use around giving birth, delivery, transition, breaking water, come from maritime and shipping language. Well, isn't that interesting, given the piece by Jason Gray that I read just the other day that I recorded for the channel? Wow, synchronicities abound. So I'm going to read that again. In fact, many of the words we use around giving birth, quote, delivery, transition, breaking water, come from maritime and shipping language, which is symbolic of Pisces. These metaphors reflect the movement from the watery, dissolving womb of Pisces into the initiating fire of Aries. Metaphorically, this astrological transition marks the emergence of a project, identity, or energy that has been brewing inside of us, growing, dreaming, gestating in Pisces, and is now ready to take form in Aries. Well, that's very interesting too, as I've had several conversations over the last few days in regards to emergence of differing things. What's emerging is larger in scope and more significant than anything we've brought forth so far. Why? Because of Neptune. We'll touch on this aspect later. Saturn and Aries. Now let's dive into the overall energy of this transit. How does Saturn express itself in Aries? Saturn, the planet of time, discipline, and long-term mastery, does not necessarily feel cozy in the sign of speed and action. When Saturn enters Aries, initiation meets limitation. Aries wants to move fast. Saturn imposes structure, delays, and mastery. Saturn in Aries is pretty much like watching Usain, U-S-A-I-N, watching Usain Bolt running in slow motion. Oh, that must be a person's name. Usain Bolt running in slow motion. It might feel frustrating, that rising feeling of impatience as you watch someone built for speed move in deliberate, slow frames. However, the slow motion ensures we pay attention to how he moves, the micro adjustments, some strategies he might be using, the hidden mechanics of winning moves that if you're running, you can learn a lot from. Yes, it doesn't give you the thrill, at least not right away, but it teaches you how to improve form, endurance, and efficiency. So later you can go faster and farther. It's the same lesson from the tortoise and the hare. Slow, steady, and intentional can get you further than raw speed alone. Similarly, Saturn in Aries is here to redefine what true progress looks like. The goal is not to tame the ram, but to help the ram achieve more than just a head first burst. That was a bit of a tongue tire, wasn't it? Saturn does not slow things down for the sake of slowing them down. It slows them down for the sake of mastery, for the sake of achieving its goal. Saturn's goal is to deliver, to materialize, to achieve, to tick the important milestones on the list. Saturn is the doer, and important things in life take time and persistence, hence the slowness and the methodical approach. Yeah, going about stuff willy-nilly is never a good idea, I feel. Historically, Saturn in Aries has coincided with a surge in startup activity, entrepreneurship, and bold new initiatives. Projects that require a certain dose of Aries guts and, quote, I can do it spirit, but also the stamina to stay long enough in the birthing process to make it to the other side. Saturn will make the ram even more determined, and it will give that extra oomph and strategic endurance. What does Saturn in Aries transit mean for us as individuals? It means that the part of us that is Aries, and we all have one, as indicated by the house ruled by Aries in our natal chart, will become more Saturnian. Now, if you don't know much about your natal chart and you're interested in finding out, you can teach yourself. You can also contact me and I can help you take a look at that, with what little bit I know. I'm not an astrologer and that's why I don't charge for things. But it's kind of fun to learn more about yourself when you look at your natal chart because boy, oh boy, let me just share with you that you do, because it sure has worked for me. Saturn will tame the Aries part of our chart, helping us to think things through before taking action. Sometimes sleeping on things or having a healthy dose of self-doubt can actually take us further in the long run. This slower pace gives us time to ask, is this truly what I want? Is it aligned with who I am becoming? Some fights are worth fighting for, and Saturn will give us the discipline and relentlessness to stick with them. There's a certain quality about the first sign of the zodiac that doesn't allow space for what's already there. It creates it from scratch. In Aries, starting a brand new cycle around the zodiac, Saturn is no longer interested in the old rules. And aren't we seeing that everybody's tired of whatever those rules thought they were going to be, right? It questions the idea of, quote, appropriate timing. The, quote, as soon as you can afford it, get a mortgage because everyone else does it mindset. In Aries, Saturn creates new rules. It resets the system. It writes its own frameworks. For every one of us, this transit is an opportunity to design new systems, new timelines, and new definitions of success, whether that's from working from home, from the road, or from the 25th floor of a corporate tower. Saturn in Aries wants us to work on our terms. Saturn wants us to discover new goals and ambitions that actually feel like ours, which is all Aries. Saturn in Aries, the aspects. We cannot separate the Saturn in Aries transit from its co-presence with Neptune, and especially the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which happens later on February 20th, 2026, at 0 degrees Aries, the quote, reset degree of the zodiac. And boy, hasn't that word been used quite a bit, right? Saturn and Neptune will be involved in an auspicious configuration called a minor triangle with Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. This will be in effect from now until late 2026, and it's a defining feature of the Saturn in Aries transit. This triangle is a rare configuration that brings together all the outer planets into a remarkable alignment of forces. The drive for transformation, which is Pluto, innovation, which is Uranus, and structured vision, which is Saturn and Neptune. Later in June 2027, Saturn will trine Jupiter in Leo, adding momentum, optimism, and expansion to whatever we've been building. We are talking about supportive aspects with slow moving outer planets, which is very good news. While in Pisces, Saturn had been squaring Jupiter, a more conflicted and foggy energy. This time, we have incredible support to ground bold new beginnings in reality while keeping them aligned with long-term purpose. Saturn and Neptune in Aries, a new world. Oh, and that one too. I've just recorded another thing from Jason that talks about the new world. Saturn, as the last visible planet in the solar system, defines the boundary of what we are allowed to see and understand. But then there's more. Beyond Saturn lie the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which may be invisible to the naked eye, but are just as real as anything else in the solar system. They orbit the sun doing their thing, whether we are aware of them or not. Of course, the fact that they're invisible to the naked eye is a metaphor. They represent forces we're not fully conscious of, which is why Uranus transits feel, quote, fated, or why Neptune transits can feel, quote, confusing, elusive, or strangely timed. Yet this time is different. Saturn follows in Neptune's footsteps, walking nearly hand in hand, offering us a rare opportunity to consciously engage with Neptune's source code. And Neptune's source code is where the intelligence of the universe originates. Neptune is the script, the cosmic architecture, the invisible design through which life unfolds. It's the underlying algorithm of reality, opening at a meta level beyond our usual awareness. Normally, we're not tuned in to that intelligent design. We simply inherit the script, and so we experience life as fate. We are born into a system, a society, and we follow its rules. When the rules change, when the script updates, we follow along, often without realizing anything has shifted at all. But when Saturn and Neptune meet at the first degree of the zodiac, the entire operating system undergoes a reboot. The world as we know it enters a complete and total reset. And again, that word has been being used for several years now, dripping that into the collective consciousness, hasn't it? We are stepping into a completely new world with a new vision from Neptune and new rules from Saturn. Saturn in Aries 1984 versus Brave New World versus what comes next. Literature has always been one step ahead of politics when it comes to imagining the future. In George Orwell's 1984, we were shown a society governed by surveillance, where every move is monitored by Big Brother, a hard dystopia where people are ruled by fear, punishment, and propaganda. History is erased, language is weaponized, and people are controlled through repression and the erasure of truth. And boy, have we not witnessed some of that. In Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, the controlled New World narrative is softer, disguised as utopia, where people are ruled not by fear, but by comfort, distraction, and genetic conditioning. The control method is pleasure, sedation, and engineered consent. And don't we see a bit of that too? Orwell gave us a world where truth is forcibly hidden. Huxley gave us a world where truth is drowned in irrelevance. We can easily trace the resemblances of both scenarios, yes, over the past 100 years. Perhaps with 1984 more resonant during the Neptune in Leo to Neptune in Capricorn era of 1914 to 1998, and Brave New World descriptive of the Neptune in Aquarius Pisces era from 1998 to 2025. So, what about the upcoming Saturn-Neptune conjunction at Aries, 0 degrees of Aries? What kind of world are we moving into now? 1984? Brave New World? If 1984 and Brave New World were crafted within systems of control, rooted in structure and institutional power, this next transition, born at 0 degrees Aries, bypasses what we usually think of as the system. In this scenario, Saturn is no longer the, quote, system. It becomes the tool for the vision. The fact that the Saturn-Neptune conjunction occurs at 0 degrees Aries, the Big Bang degree of the zodiac, is hugely significant. It suggests a spontaneous, individuated, and archetypally raw emergence of a new world. Less managed, less bureaucratic, and more primordial. Let's compare this upcoming conjunction to previous Saturn-Neptune conjunctions. 1989 in Capricorn, the Cold War ends, walls fall, institutions crack, but everything still passes through hierarchical filters. 1953 in Libra, post-World War II world order stabilized through diplomacy, alliances, and social contracts. 1917 in Leo, the fall of monarchies, the rise of state-centered ideologies. Power was dramatic, visible, and myth-driven. 1882 in Taurus, industrialization reshaped material values and human labor. Even 1989 in Capricorn, the fall of the Berlin Wall, often seen as revolutionary, was a structured collapse, not an instinctive rebirth. But 0 degrees of Aries breaks the pattern. At 0 degrees Aries is the Fool in tarot, stepping into the unknown, the seed splitting open, and the pioneer with no map. When outer planet cycles begin here, they don't just evolve the past, they replace it. This is not a top-down, committee-approved, softly transitioned shift. This is a blazing reset. The world being born is not a management project. It's an eruption of will, truth, and self-definition. There is no blueprint yet, just the demand to act. This is an epochal myth reset we are hitting. New game. Oh, I see. Let me read that again. This is an epochal myth reset, period. We are hitting, quote, new game on human civilization. So, what will we build? Will we build it on courage and clarity or illusion and control? Will it be a brave new world of empowered individuals with spiritual purpose? Or a technocratic dystopia of digitized meaning masked by distraction? Are we engineering systems that help people wake up or fall asleep? The conjunction invites us to consciously design a new world myth where structures, which is Saturn, serve vision, which is Neptune, and idealism is grounded in personal responsibility, which is Aries. Saturn and Neptune in Aries, be careful what you wish for. While Saturn crossing the 0 degrees Aries threshold and the historic conjunction with Neptune at 0 degrees is a complete and archetypal reset, there's more nuance to this. Yes, the new world that will emerge will start from scratch, and yes, it will be different from everything we've seen. However, we should keep in mind that this new vision, however raw and new, is still seated in Pisces. There's a cyclicity. They're talking about there being a cycle to the zodiac. One sign follows the other. Cyclicity. Cyclicity. There we go. That's how you pronounce that. Cyclicity. There's a cyclicity to the zodiac. One sign follows the other. So this brand new reality is ultimately not random. It's a reflection of our own dreams, aspirations, wash off of unlived potentials, frustrations, desires, illusions from Pisces, where Saturn and Neptune have been quietly simmering over the past years. Pisces reminds us that whatever is not experienced and fully felt at its time gets stored in an inner ocean of unlived potential that becomes our dream or our nightmare. Oh my God. I want to mark that right there because honestly, that is something that Lisa and I'm hoping we will be doing the conversation today because that has been going on and we are just now getting to the point where we actually see how true that is. I'm going to read this again. Pisces reminds us whatever is not experienced and fully felt at its time gets stored in an inner ocean of unlived potential that becomes our dream or our nightmare. I want you to think in terms of programming and conditioning, releasing of experienced trauma, how that gets stored in the body. That's a very real thing that's being talked about here that we all have not had in the forefront of our consciousness, if you ask me, until now. And that's one of the things over these last 8-9 years since I've been on this true quest to find myself that I have finally realized by not allowing myself to fully feel all my feelings all the way through and find out what the underlying issues have been. A lot of that trauma has been stored and reactivated and has informed my life as I've moved forward. And I would be willing to bet that anyone who will look at their own actions will find that that's a true statement for you too. And I'd love to hear what you think about that in the comment section, or reach out to me personally at consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com. Whatever dream lives inside of us, and not all of them are pretty, is going to be materialized by Saturn. As the saying goes, quote, be careful what you wish for because it might happen. This is quite a deep reflection. We are encouraged to be careful, or i.e. conscious, i.e. discerning about what we wish for, our Neptunian longing, our Neptunian dream, because this dream will eventually be birthed into existence in the same sequential way that Aries, the birth, follows Pisces, the dream in the zodiac. Ultimately, that's the law of karma, or Saturn. One thing leads to another. Actions have consequences. So do thoughts, by the way. And so do the things we avoid or postpone. Everything we carry within eventually transforms, and what lives inside us becomes real. That is a truer statement I've never heard spoken. Saturn and Neptune, the Midas touch. When King Midas wished for everything he touched to turn to gold, his ideal of wealth and abundance, little did he consider that his deepest wish, becoming real, would turn into a curse. His food, his daughter, everything he loved became cold and lifeless. This is a cautionary tale. Dreams, what brews in our unconscious, do come true. And we need to be careful and discerning about what we wish for. This happens a lot in everyday life when the story we've been telling ourselves to give life some meaning or direction turns out to be not authentic, but just an irrelevant tick box. Many people build their lives around a fantasy like getting married and having the perfect wedding, believing it will bring fulfillment or validation. The ambitious young professional becomes so focused on earning that promotion that they reshape their entire life, routine, values, even personality, just to fulfill the dream. The vision becomes so consuming that it pushes us down a path that no longer feels like our own. We end up trapped in a dream that might have once felt meaningful, but is no longer alive. That's why, when we do achieve what we thought we always wanted, many Saturn-Neptune transits lead to disillusionment. Is this really it? That's not what I expected. And then we hear things like, Neptune transits are no good. They're all about illusions, when in reality, we're the ones stuck in outdated dreams. We could go as far to say our entire life is shaped by the dreams we've been dreaming. And if our life doesn't feel fulfilling, doesn't feel aligned, it's perhaps because the dreams we were feeding it are not seated in truth and presence. That presence part is the biggest part. Saturn in Aries, the time is now. The good news? Saturn and Neptune in Aries are not your average dreamy combo. There's something very alive and urgent about Aries. This is the point zero of the zodiac, a space where there's no space for outdated dreams. In Aries, the time is now. She wrote that in all caps. The dream is real, and it's meant to be pursued with drive, clarity, and purpose immediately. Aries doesn't let the dream fade into abstraction. It doesn't wait. It doesn't have the patience for delayed alignment. It acts. And that's great news. As Saturn crosses the threshold, following Neptune's footsteps, it brings an urgency to our dreams. If something inspires you right now, pursue it. Take it seriously. It's not, quote, just a dream, at least not in the old Piscean way. Don't put it into a storage unit, quote, for later. Take action now. Of course, the dream might take a while to fully unfold. It might morph into something else, and that's perfectly fine because at 0 degrees Aries, the point is not the finish line. The point is the starting line, and you want to get started. Saturn and Neptune, a higher order. Again, when we talk about the Saturn in Aries transit, we cannot untangle it from Neptune, especially given how closely they travel together in the first year of Saturn's stay in Aries. This co-presence and upcoming conjunction marks an incredibly important reset. We're talking about a reconfiguration of structure, rules, laws, and frameworks, a higher order of rearrangement. Just like in dreams where our daily impressions are reassembled into symbolic storylines, Neptune works on an abstract level. It dissolves, merges, shifts, and reimagines. It initiates a subtle but profound reshaping, which is a Neptune trait, of our reality, which is Saturn. Neptune in Aries brings the dream of a new beginning, and Saturn in Aries makes it happen. Together, they form a higher Neptune order, Saturn, a cosmic recalibration of reality. In past Saturn-Neptune cycles, we've seen the birth of new power structures, redrawing of borders, foundational treaties, new legal or ideological orders. Saturn equals structure, law, form. Neptune equals collective ideals, fluid boundaries, transcendent narratives. And now, with both planets co-present in Aries, this takes the archetype to a whole new level of urgency, momentum, and initiation. Aries doesn't reform what exists, it starts over. Together in Aries, Saturn and Neptune signal a restructuring of collective agreements like trade deals, territorial claims, global resource distribution, digital frameworks, or economic alliances. And This level of change will most likely initially bring chaos and disruption. Wow, think about all that has been going on. We're already seeing this: tariffs, new trade blocks, AI governance discussions, and shifting alliances. These are early Neptune in Aries signals of what's about to come. But things will get real, solidified with Saturn in Aries. And when Saturn and Neptune conjunct at 0 degrees Aries, we'll move to an entirely new level of order meets vision. Are we ready for a new world, a new order, and a new dream? Saturn in Aries, be the change you want to see in the world. Now that we have an idea of what to expect on a global level, what about personally? We can apply the same principles to the individual. The same systemic change, new vision, and reset of reality is also happening within us. And I can attest to that. I think that is absolutely true. We too can create a life built on our highest mission and soul's longing and potential, which is Neptune, and then get serious about making it happen, which is Saturn. This is a unique moment infused with 0 degrees Aries. It won't last forever. The following weeks and months are key, a time when we can each tap into the field of possibility that only a fresh cycle brings. Saturn will soon cross the threshold. The field gets activated. The question is, do we want to play an active role in this shift or let the opportunity slip? In the process of answering the call to act, we will most likely hit some emotional or existential walls. Drive, courage, and appetite for risk, classic Aries traits, might not come naturally to many of us, especially if we don't have planets in Aries. Yeah, I don't have any planets in Aries, I don't think. But that's why, except for my Chiron, but that's why we have Saturn here for the next few years to teach us how to build those traits step by step so we can act with real confidence, grounded not in illusion, but in earned experience. If Saturn in Pisces was, quote, fake it till you make it, Saturn in Aries is, quote, make it real. If the Pisces motto was, quote, be careful what you wish for, the higher Aries motto is be the change you want to see in the world. In this new world, we can no longer wait for things to happen, for perfect timing, for someone else to take the lead, for life to magically fall into place. We can no longer pass the responsibility outside ourselves to family, friends, communities, governments, councils, or politicians. With Saturn in Aries, there is no more them. It's us. The shift begins with the realization that everything going on in the world is a reflection of everything we've done, and very importantly, everything we haven't done in the last Saturn cycles. I know that that's a true statement because everything that we're seeing on the world stage, the political stage, is happening because we haven't paid attention, in my view. We've not paid attention and we've let the boobs run the show. And so now it's time for us to be that change we want to see. All of our small choices, study or party, gym or couch, speak up or stay silent, confront or avoid, say yes or say no, do something or do nothing, multiplied by millions of individuals, have created our current collective reality. Absolutely true, AstroButterfly. The current state of the world is not random or imposed from outside. It's a mirror of both our actions and our inactions over time. The only way to reset the system is to create new initial conditions, start from scratch, and be active in the process as individuals. Too true. With Saturn and Neptune in Aries, the knight in shining armor is not some leader or savior, it's you. Saturn in Aries will remind us of one essential truth. If we want things to change, we have to jump on the horse and ride. We do have the power. We can change our life, and it's often not even as hard as we fear it is if we just make that first step. It's never too late. Age and life circumstances are just numbers and labels, and they don't hold up when there's big Aries energy in the house. Saturn in Aries is our chance to become the person we were always meant to be the change we want to see in the world. I love this. And then she finishes here to subscribe to future updates. If you want to keep up with the future transits, make sure you subscribe. And I highly recommend that. It is free, doesn't cost you a cent. You will get these updates in your email box. I am not always nudged to record and share all of her work. And even if you really don't follow astrology, if you are looking for your own purpose, what happens with astrology on the whole is an insight into the truth of who you are, in my view. And so I just adore the way she writes. And I highly recommend this for you as well. And if you just keep reading, even if you feel like, well, I don't know anything about astrology, you will begin to understand what is being talked about, because I did, and I didn't understand astrology at all when I started. So go to astrobutterfly.com and sign up for her free newsletter. She also has an awful lot there to share. You can use her site to begin to teach yourself more and more and more about you through your own natal chart, should you so desire. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. If you've not subscribed, we'd love to have you join, whether you're watching this on New Light Streaming Love or on Sassy Seer Sheila. I hope that you will move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. It really is just a matter of perspective and your perception of that perspective that you hold. And if you don't feel very joyous, give yourself a moment. Step back. Take a look at it from a different angle. See if you can find a different point of view. You just may find a little bit more joyous scenario. Until we meet again, my friends, be well. Mwah.